Welcome to the Asheville View. I'm your host, Aisha Adams, and today I'm here with my friend and mentor, Jeff Kaplan. Hi.
Hi, Aisha. Great to be here. Great to be here. Great to be here. great to be here with you all.
I am so excited to spend more time with you today. Will you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Jeffrey Kaplan. I'm the executive director now at Venture Asheville. I got a nice little title change this year, going to my 5th year in this role. At Venture Asheville, we build entrepreneurs and get startups funded. We do that through 3 core initiatives. We have incubators, which have a lot of mentorship and experiences behind them to help people become more entrepreneurial. We support people with access to capital when it comes to financing needs. And we do tons of programs and events throughout the year to build the capacity of the ecosystem.
So if you want to make a lot of money or or just be a better entrepreneur, I feel like Jeff Kaplan is a great resource, and he's helped me on my journey a lot. And so I'm here today to talk to you about the E13. Is that a part of Venture Asheville, or is that a personal project? Tell me more about it.
Like a lot of entrepreneurs, my personal projects are wrapped up in my professional projects, right? And the E13 goes back, I think, 12 years now. So the story was, it was created by my mentor in grad school, this guy named Dr. Michael Morris. When he was at Oklahoma State University, he and his grad students came up with 13 identifiable traits that make somebody entrepreneurial. And it's a little bit more wider, more encompassing than like saying grit. You know, it's 13, it's a lot. And importantly, they look at these as competencies. And the difference between a competency, or the importance of having a metric of competencies, is that competencies can be developed over time through repetition, through practice, through exposure to experiences. So what I love about this assessment tool that came out of what these 13 competencies are, is it says anybody, it doesn't matter what your background is, what your personality traits are, what your quirks or idiosyncrasies are, you can be more entrepreneurial and more successful if you enhance these 13 competencies in your life.
Yeah.
And so at Venture Asheville, we use them, and a couple other incubators do as well, to assess founders at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey, to get a baseline of things like opportunity recognition, risk mitigation, the ability to build and leverage networks, resilience, the ability to focus, yet adapt, so kind of your tolerance for ambiguity. And so we test across 13, and we hope, after our incubator participation for a year or more, we can take a post-test and see how much you've grown. And ideally, right, the hypothesis behind the study is that better scoring competencies lead to better performing entrepreneurs. And because entrepreneurs are fully wrapped up in their ventures, they're one and the same, we should have better performing ventures because of better scoring founders.
Wow.
I think that's it.
That's amazing. I know on Black Wall Street, we're using the E13, and I've been helping build out the curriculum with Jay Hackett, and we've been looking at each month focusing on a core competency.
Awesome.
And building background and connecting it. So this conversation was really important to have, so that our community can begin to understand why we're doing this assessment and then how we're using it to go forward. But how accessible is this assessment? Like if I'm just somebody at home, maybe I live in Alabama or Florida, and I want to be a better entrepreneur, how can I utilize this test?
Great. So first, I love the idea of having a competency themed per month. And if you had to compare 2, we can talk about which 2 you could combine and make it a smooth one-year program. Because you can't think your way into entrepreneurship. You have to do stuff to be an entrepreneur. So giving folks those experiences and road mapping their monthly journey is perfect. That's great. Because of a grant from the NC Idea Foundation, Paul Grattan, who is a dean at Monterey College, and I applied for this grant to help take this idea of these 13 entrepreneurial competencies and this assessment that was only used in academic settings, and created the E13.com. That's it, www.the13.com. And it's a free assessment. Anyone can take it right now, free forever. You can get your score and see how you rank. On that website, there's also resources for further reading or further experiences you can have. There's also a whole research tab of if you're an academic and you're like, competencies are bogus, I think we should be looking at personalities. Cool. There's an article addressing that on the resource tab as well.
Out of the competencies, which competency do you feel that entrepreneurs struggle with the most?
This is a great question.
I know the answer.
Yeah, well, the thing about a ranking is there's always going to be a top and a bottom. And so what we've done is we look at a cohort, and so we started looking at Elevate, our key incubator, and I think when you were in our program, that our lowest scoring competency at that time was self-efficacy, which is defined as one's belief in their ability to accomplish a task. That's super surprising because we expect our entrepreneurs to be these very bold, these daring, these confident, these rabble-rousers, these inspiring people that are on the forefront of their industry. And then we start asking these people confidentially and privately, do you hesitate to ask for help? And across the board, they strongly agree, they hesitate to ask for help. Or one prompt is, I only set goals which I know I can reach without the help of others. And we find that entrepreneurs are mostly agreeing to that because it's easier to say, I'll just do it myself than try to build the relationships and collaborations which could lead to further larger success but might take longer. It's like that proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that's part of self-efficacy. Interestingly, this year, this assessment keeps going on. It's being used all across our state, North Carolina. It's being used in Alberta, Canada now in their government accelerator. We're finding lately the lowest scoring competency is no longer self-efficacy. And I think that's because over the last year and a half since we discovered this, we've changed a lot of our programming in the community to address directly founders' belief in themselves. We've changed our tone. We've changed talking about exits and funding. Instead, we talk about the entrepreneurial journey and roadmap and the milestones. So we really changed our tone, changed our program of work, and it's helping. Self-efficacy is no longer on the bottom, but there's always going to be a bottom score because it's a ranking. So now, surprisingly, there's two that kind of go back and forth based on who we're talking to. And there's no demographics behind that. It was, in Asheville or Winston-Salem. It's kind of going back and forth between the ability to build and leverage networks and the ability to focus yet adapt. And I think a lot of this, I don't have enough data to back it up. My hunch is telling me these are pandemic hangovers. That everything during the pandemic, there was no more spontaneity. There's no more go networking and mingle and see what's going to happen at this event that you go to. Everything was structured, everything was scheduled, everything was sent a Zoom invite, and there was no more just bumping into somebody over the coffee line in the morning and what do you do, what brought you here, and trying to build authentic and spontaneous connections. Everything suddenly became very planned, very structured, very scheduled. And that really, I believe, is hurting the ability to build and leverage networks. How do you build all those loose affiliations, those connections, when you no longer have room for spontaneity? Right? And then the ability to focus and adapt is a surprising one because we find that the companies that performed best the last 3-4 years of the pandemic were the ones that were really nimble and agile, the ones that were more values-based than product or service-based, and they could change, pivot quickly their services to meet the needs of the moment. And so those are the two competencies now going forward to 2024 and beyond that we'll start changing our program to. I haven't figured that out yet, but that's where we need to move our program and our events in the community to address networking, which is surprising. It's like an easy one to work on. Networking and the ability to focus and adapt, also considered the tolerance for ambiguity.
What I find in coaching entrepreneurs and being an entrepreneur around networking, what is interesting is there are a million networking events in every community. But the problem is, are we networking or are we having fun? And there's a big difference between that. And I think we know that in order for particularly Black and brown people to get over, the net has to work. It can't just be, I know Jeff. Jeff has to be able to say my name in rooms when he's in positions of power. He has to be able to break down the policy, practices, and procedures for me. And I think a lot of the networking that we do in community is more just getting acquainted with each other and not building strong collaboration. So as you think about the planning, I would say as an entrepreneur, that's something that I had to do. I had to start ranking the networking events I was going to, reflecting what I was getting out of them, and challenging myself to do things differently. Yeah,
I think I learned so much in your DEI training you did with the chamber and your your aquarium metaphor is so good, right? So much of the networking in Asheville specifically, this might be a little off topic for the videos, but all the Asheville stuff is really just like hanging out at a brewery and talking to people. And those social norms and practices are not comfortable or native to a lot of people, right? And I think, if we want to be more inclusive in our networking, we should not always be a happy hour at a brewery. That's probably an easy one to adapt.
It's an easy one, right?
And change to be more inclusive, sure.
Before I let you go, how can entrepreneurs work with you, connect with you, learn from you, and keep up with you?
The best way to keep up with me is probably on LinkedIn. Just send me a note like, hey, I saw you talking to Aisha, let's connect, and I'll accept the connection. It's just LinkedIn, Jeffrey Kaplan, the one in Asheville. There's a couple other ones, but I'm the only one in Asheville, for now at least.
The cool one.
The cool one, yeah. There's no one in Greensboro, forget that guy. And otherwise, ventureasheville.com. We have a newsletter, we have social media, everything's at Venture AVL. That's where we post our events, our updates. But for kind of the topical conversation, things regarding what's happening in entrepreneurship and with startups and founders at the moment, LinkedIn's the most frequent place to go.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you're watching the Asheville View.